around 400 kilos a day. Yeah, and this was shipped on a daily basis. So that gives you an idea of the importance of the production means.
And we had to make some seizures that included drugs, cars, cash, and others. So we had more than 200 police officers in the action day.
Welcome to the Europol Podcast, the official podcast of the EU Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation. In this series, we shine a light on some of the biggest operations Europol has supported and how we continue to fight organised crime. Today's episode, Catching Cocaine Traffickers. Drug trafficking by sophisticated criminal networks is a major threat to public safety in the EU. Going after these networks is a top priority for Europol. In fact, Europol was first established as the Europol Drugs Unit in Strasbourg way back in 1993. In the almost 30 years that have passed since then, Europol has recorded several major successes in helping countries track down international drug trafficking rings. This episode is about one such case, when Europol worked with authorities in Europe, Latin America, and the United States to derail an organised crime group who were shipping cocaine worldwide. Cocaine represents the second largest illegal drugs market in Europe after cannabis. Research by Europol and the European Monitoring Centre for Drugs and Drug Addiction, or EMCDDA, valued Europe's cocaine market at €10.5 billion in 2020. The research also found that both the quantity and quality of cocaine in Europe is also on the rise. It is becoming stronger, more widely available, and more affordable. In fact, Europol's Serious and Organised Crime Threat Assessment has recorded that nearly 40% of the criminal networks operating at the international level are active in drug trafficking. This shows it is a key revenue stream for organised crime, one that's coming at the expense of public health and security, both inside and outside Europe.
So my name is Bruno. I'm an operational analyst here at Europol for the last 3 years. But I worked previously for Europol as a liaison officer in the drugs field also.
Bruno is from Europol's Serious and Organised Crime Centre. Before joining Europol here in The Hague, Bruno was conducting investigations in his home country, hunting drug traffickers and similar types of illicit networks. He's been doing this for over 15 years, and so he knows a lot about modern narcotics trafficking. Let Bruno take you through some numbers.
So basically you have 1 kilo of cocaine that is produced for around $1,000. Then it is sold to the buyers, European buyers, for something like, including the cost, a kind of insurance, $7,000, $8,000. Once this product reaches the European market, then it's immediately the price rises to $28,000. And if we go down to the street value, each of these kilos can be adulterated by some cutting agent, which depending on the honesty of your dealer, he can cut this kilo into 2, 3, 4 maybe. It tends to be 4 maximum now. Back in the days, maybe 10 years ago, you would have 6 kilos made out of 1 kilo. So you don't find this low-level cocaine on the streets anymore.
Now, bear in mind that each gram individually will sell for €40 on the street. This creates vast revenues for criminal networks. And what's more, the markets are evolving. European organised crime is collaborating more and more with international criminal groups, leading to record levels of drug availability, rising violence and corruption, and greater health problems. However, law enforcement can respond in kind, with closer international coordination against traffickers and with greater partnerships with the producer and transit countries. And that's exactly what happened in the case we're looking at in this episode.
This whole case started with one picture sent by the main supplier to one of his associates. And it was a picture of a container with the container number that could be read very, very clearly.
It's spring 2021, and Europol agents are combing through the data from an encrypted messaging network used by criminals, which was called SkyECC. The network had been pulled offline by Europol and our partners earlier in that year. The agents didn't know it immediately, but this one photo is going to lead to one of Europol's biggest ever drug busts.
So he was sending this container to one of his friends, and a second picture was a handwritten note with a list of names like Louis Vuitton and stuff like this, which are commonly known for being stamps that are engraved on the cocaine bricks. And the little sum on the side of this name was mentioning 10,000. So we immediately believed that it could be 10,000 kilos shipment that was going to be sent in this container from which we had the number.
Armed with this lead, the next task was to get confirmation on the nature of this shipment, which ultimately arrived in Belgium and was then checked by Belgian customs.
They checked and intercepted the container on the 2nd of April. Indeed, the 10,000 expected kilos of cocaine that were hidden in the container, in the shipment, of leather. It was a leather legal shipment.
An immediate blow to the criminals. A shipment of cocaine worth hundreds of thousands of euros, which they'd tried to hide in leather, had been successfully intercepted. But this was just the beginning of the investigation.
So, but we obviously worked on the South American networks ourselves, and we could quite quickly identify the previous shipments that were sent to other European countries. And I think, I'm pretty sure actually, that the total amount of cocaine sent in the period of 4 months was 22 tons. He's selling it directly because he has no intermediary. He's selling it directly to Europe for 28,000.
So it turned out that the 10,000 kilo shipment wasn't the group's first. Through the SkyECC data, investigators uncovered that the criminal group had in fact shifted a huge amount of cocaine between late 2020 and April 2021. They'd been making astronomical amounts of illicit profits and were freely communicating via encrypted messenger apps to plan it all. But what the criminals didn't know was that Europol and an international coalition of law enforcement were building up a case against them. Experts from Europol and the participating national police forces continued to comb through the encrypted messages of the organised crime group. Over time, they were building a picture of who they were and where they were. But this task became simpler when the person at the head of this organised criminal group made a crucial slip-up.
We identified the leader of the Paraguayan group quite immediately, because he was stupid enough to send a picture of, several pictures of himself, and also a copy of the ID of his brother. So we had the name of his brother quite early, which led us to him. In a couple of weeks, he was identified.
Leads like these are one of the outcomes when actions led by judicial and law enforcement authorities target encrypted criminal communications. It's called a top-down approach to policing, and it's exactly like what we heard about in our two-parter on Operation Greenlight earlier in the series. By targeting criminal communications networks in particular, law enforcement can actually prevent loss of life and help track down high-value targets, the criminal ringleaders who drive a great deal of modern organised crime.
We initiated this cooperation as fast as we could. And we found a nice counterpart in the Drug Enforcement Agency of the United States of America. And they were extremely reactive to the intel that we provided them with.
With the DEA on board, Europol, together with the European and US authorities, could pool expertise and intelligence.
And additionally, they were already working on some of the people, but they did not know that the group was able to ship that much cocaine. So they were really, really eager to cooperate with us.
The combined work of Europol and the DEA soon uncovered the secret of the drug trafficking operation. The head of the group, who was from Paraguay, actually had their own legitimate logistics business. And this had been how he was able to move cocaine in such quantities without detection. In fact, it might surprise you to hear that this is also common practice amongst criminals, and the 2021 Serious Organised Crime Threat Assessment reported that more than 80% of criminal networks use legal business structures as part of their criminal operation.
So they had a full fleet of small aircraft, around 14 or 15. So they were flying almost on a daily basis. So it was around 400 kilos a day. So that gives you an idea of the importance of the production means that they have.
As well as his own legitimate logistics company for the shipping, the ringleader was in control of the production too.
The guy was always saying that he had several farms, and apparently they were very productive. So probably large cocaine plantation. The group was outsourcing the production or the cultivation in another South American country, in that case Bolivia. So coca plant was grown and the cocaine was processed there directly. Then it was shipped to Paraguay by small aircraft across the border efficiently and without being detected.
The investigation into the trafficking ring had so far uncovered an individual at the top of the organisation who appeared to run it all thanks to their own fleet of planes and array of cocaine plantations. However, shipping cocaine usually requires a sizable operation. To make it happen, criminals will work together, providing different services within the production chain. For example, one organised crime group might handle the drugs production, while another handles the shipping, and another the money laundering, etc., etc. But modern technology, such as encrypted criminal messaging services, is changing this. The ability to organise the operation from anywhere in the world is leading some to take it on all by themselves. This streamlining of the criminal process is a new trend, one that law enforcement agencies like Europol are following.
This is the surprising things in a way, because you really do not need a huge amount of people. It's a very limited amount of workers that you need. I would say, a handful. I think the close associates of the main targets, we can count them on the fingers of one hand.
This small group were taking home huge amounts of money. A sum made greater still, since there were fewer intermediaries to pay and a workforce unaware of what was really inside their cargo. And when it came to handling all that money, they were planning the money laundering through a simple and publicly available instant messaging app.
In my career, as I told you, more than 15 years of experience, I've never seen this kind of message ever before. But you would have something as straightforward as, okay, tomorrow at 12, I will dump you $1 million and the street name and the city plate.
The criminals seemed to think that there was no chance they could get caught. Law enforcement needed to get to work on taking this highly lucrative criminal operation down.
I could say that the turning point was when we really started the cooperation with Europol and with Spain and with Paraguay. Because, again, we were investigating in Brazil, but from the moment that we start the collaboration, not that kind of bureaucratic collaboration, it was the turning point.
Ricardo is a senior member of Brazilian law enforcement, and he's based here at Europol headquarters in The Hague.
My name is Ricardo Saadi. I am the Brazilian Liaison Officer at Europol.
Liaison officers are law enforcement officials who are seconded to Europol from their home country. They build strong international networks on a daily basis and facilitate operational cooperation while representing the interests of their respective countries. The liaison network at Europol is the largest of its kind.
Europol facilitated the exchange of information between Brazil, Spain, and many different European countries. We could have some analytical support, and on the action day, Europol deployed some officers to Brazil and to Spain, and I can say that the game changer was when we was allowed to send Brazilian police officers to work here at Europol.
Ricardo's role in this case was to keep Europol in sync with the law enforcement in Brazil, Spain, and elsewhere, ensuring a smooth operation.
They were drug dealers for a long time. They had very good connections in different countries in South America and Europe. They had contacts in Paraguay, they had contacts in Bolivia, and they had contacts in Colombia in order to buy the drugs. They sent the drug to Brazil mainly in small planes. After the drug arrived in Brazil, they use trucks to transport the drugs to Rio de Janeiro, because this criminal organization, they use different ports in Brazil, but mainly in Rio de Janeiro. They stored the drug in some locations close to the port. And when it was possible, they contaminated the containers to make the shipments to Europe. It's important to say that they used the encrypted communications to coordinate their activities.
By now, the law enforcement team handling the case included authorities in the USA and several European countries such as Spain, as well as Brazil's federal police and Europol. Together, they figured out how a small group had been able to run an industrial-scale cocaine trafficking operation that moved 400 kilos a day. The head of the operation is producing cocaine at his own plantation in Bolivia at the cost of around $1,000 per kilo. He's then using his own legitimate logistics companies, complete with a fleet of light aircraft, for moving the cocaine from Bolivia into Paraguay. From Paraguay, he moves it to the ports of South America by road, mainly in Brazil, but also in places like Argentina. It's hidden at the back of lorries carrying fruits, vegetables, and similar cargo. From the ports, it travels to Europe through another one of his logistics companies, this time on board container ships, with 2 or 3 containers being sent to Europe per week. He then unloads in the ports of Europe and sells that $1,000 kilo of cocaine for $28,000. And how had they managed to avoid arrest so far? As well as using encrypted messenger apps and other tools which they thought law enforcement could not get past, there are other means at the disposal of organised crime.
A lot of people ask how they can do this without alerting authorities. I could say that in all the ports, in the port environment, we have a quite intensive movement of cars, trucks, cargo, so it's really difficult to inspect all. And of course, we have corruption on ports. But it's really important to say that it's not a problem only from Brazil. We have the same problem in all the world, including other countries in South America and in Europe.
Now that law enforcement had found the criminals' modus operandi, they were ready to coordinate an action day. Based off the intelligence, there would be over 90 searches that would be coordinated by the law enforcement team involved in the operation.
On the action day, we had more than 200 police officers. But in Brazil, it was in São Paulo, in Mato Grosso, Rio de Janeiro, Santa Catarina, and as you know, Brazil, it's a huge country, and we had to make some seizures that included drugs, cars, cash, It's important that this criminal organization act in Rio de Janeiro and Rio. we had some areas that are really dangerous. So in this case, on the action day, we had to search in one of these dangerous locations that were dominated by criminals.
However, the specialized agents from Brazil's federal police were equipped for whatever the criminals could throw at them.
We need to send our operational team, highly trained, with the specific equipment. But for them, it's another day because they do it every day. We had the resistance of the criminals. We believed that they would resist, but not that strong. We have more than 5 minutes exchanging fire between the police and the criminals. But in the end, it was okay. We could do our work. We had around 30 arrests. We have a lot of seizures that included drugs, cars, firearms, cash, several bank accounts. And during the investigation, we could seize more than 9 tons of cocaine.
As well as stopping the flow of drugs, the action day also took these dangerous traffickers out of the poorer urban areas where they'd been hiding.
It's a residential part, unfortunately, poor parts of Rio de Janeiro. And these parts, they are dominated by the criminals. We have militia, we have the drug trafficking. So they provide something to the population in exchange to use that territory to make the drug trafficking.
Simultaneous actions were being coordinated in places such as Spain and Paraguay.
It was really, it was a flawless cooperation. Honestly, they did a fantastic job on the action days. They did searches all around the country. The numbers of arrests in Paraguay and the numbers of search and seizures in Paraguay was something I've never seen anywhere else in the world before. And the achievement in Paraguay was such that some of high-level politicians had to resign also. Cooperation with Spain was, as always, very fruitful and very smooth.
So, after months of intensive police work, hundreds of searches and some exchanges of gunfire, the suspects were brought in. 30 people had been arrested, including senior politicians. They were sent to await trial. The action was over. Modern technology, such as the specialized encrypted phones used by the criminals, was key to the modus operandi in the case from this episode. However, police cooperation and Europol's operational support and technical capability is turning the tide against these dangerous, organized criminal groups.
Just would like to highlight the international cooperation, because in some countries we have some colleagues that they are afraid of this kind of cooperation because they would like to see only for their countries. But it's really, really important, the international cooperation. We need to be open for the international cooperation.
If you want to learn more about the state of play in today's drug markets, you can download the European Drug Markets Reports, which are comprehensive drug market overviews produced by the EMCDDA and Europol. The link to the report on cocaine is in the description for this episode. Thanks a lot for listening. We hope you enjoyed hearing about this case. If you did, be sure to subscribe, rate and review the show on whatever platform you're using, and tell your friends about it on social media.